And our word for today on this Tuesday of the 30th week in Ordinary Time, this Tuesday, October the 29th. Our word for today is wife. Wife is our word for today, taken from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians, chapter 5. Brothers and sisters, be subordinate to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives should be subordinate to their husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is head of his wife, just as Christ is head of the church. He himself, the Savior of the body, as the church is subordinate to Christ. So wives should be subordinate to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives even as Christ loved the church and handed himself over for her to sanctify her, cleansing her by the bath of water with the word, that he might present to himself the church in splendor, without spot or wrinkle, that she might be holy and without blemish. So also husbands should love their wives as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one hates his own flesh, but rather nourishes it and cherishes it, even as Christ does the church. For no one hates his own flesh, but rather nourishes it and cherishes it, even as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. We are members of his body, brothers and sisters. We are the spouse of Christ. I am the bride of Christ. You are the bride of Christ. The groom is coming back for a spotless bride, and his bride we are. So the wife is the one who is represented in this, right? And the husband is supposed to be the representative of Christ himself. Who is called to be subordinate? All of us, subordinate to Christ, brothers and sisters, be subordinate to one another out of reverence for Christ. Yes, wives should be subordinate to their husbands. Yes, husbands should be subordinate to Christ. Yes, husbands should lay down their lives for their wives in the same way that Christ laid down his life for the church. We are called to equal service to one another, not to give 50% and they give 50. No, to give 110% all the time, more than we could ever do on our own, doing the thing that we can only do by grace, because we are the spouse of Jesus Christ. And our spouse, whether male or female, if I'm the husband and I have a wife, then my wife is the one that I am laying down my life for. Wives to the husbands, the same exact thing. What? Out of a love for Christ, out of trying to be like Christ, to serve one another as Christ serves us, always selfless, always giving everything. And yes, to love our lives, us men, us husbands, to love our wives the way that Christ loved the church and laid down his life for the church. Yes, what are we called to do ultimately for our wives? We are called to die. What did Jesus do for his bride? He died. And through that death, through our willingness to die, we then are made into that spotless bride, ready for the coming of Jesus Christ when he comes again into the world, but most likely for our own second coming of Christ, when we meet him face to face after we have closed our eyes to this world and meet him in eternity. Let us be a bride that is welcome, that is ready to welcome her husband, to see him as he truly is, and that he might see us as ones who are willing and ready to live our lives in service of him and those that he died for. Wife, our word for today.